Hey there, it's Kareen, and I'm ready to get all up in your business today. Most of all, I brought some friends. Today's conversation is with Kass and Mike. I wanted to make sure I had them on the show for us to talk about partnership in business, partnering with businesses, how to be a solid partner. And they actually said yes. They said yes to talk to me about it, coming on the show and helping me help you, because that's what they're all about. These two leaders are the essential leaders with value. Like, they go through the process of not only learning for themselves what's best for them, but they detach from unrealistic outcomes and go for what's best for all. And in their book, Shoveling Shit, that's what it's called, they have shared their background a little bit. And so I want to share it with you as I intro them into today's conversation. They have been serial entrepreneurs and investors, best known for co-founding golf.com and Buddy Media, a software company that sold to Salesforce.com for $745 million. These are some big numbers. It takes a serious partnership to have these type of results. It's amazing. With a lifetime of stories from decades of building business and helping others as investors and advisors, they are in high demand as public speakers, writers, and podcast guests. So I'm a lucky one that I'm able to have them here to talk to today. After selling golf.com to Time Warner in 2006, Mike and Kass co-founded Buddy Media, which would become the world's leading social media marketing platform. And that is how it sold to Salesforce in 2012. They have focused on providing capital and advice to the world's most innovative founders. Mike and Kass have supported close to 100 early stage startup founders. They served as angel investors and advisors to Scopely, which sold to Savvy Games for $5 billion in 2022, and Liquid Death, the canned water company. I loved reading the stories about Liquid Death in here and how they came up with the name. So you have to get the book. It's so great. Whose evil mission is to make people laugh and get more of them to drink healthy beverages more often, all while helping kill plastic pollution. Mike was named New York's Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, and together they were ranked #1 on Business Insider's Silicon Alley 100. Received the Cycle for Survival Game Changer Award for their leadership in helping to raise $375 million for cancer research, and were recognized with the Leader of the Future Award from the Frances Hesselbein Leadership Institute. Mike and Kass live in New York City, Hudson Valley, have 3 kids and 2 rescue dogs. But most of all, they befriend pretty much everyone they come across, and you'll hear it in today's conversation as we talk through what it means to be partners in business, how to bust through fears around bringing in partners, but most of all, making sure that you are the best partner possible to partner with. Because if you're looking to grow and scale your business or sustain it in any way, having the right partnerships matter. So I hope you learn from something today. I hope you like, tag, and subscribe to both our channels here. Go connect with Kass and Mike on theirs, and please let us know what you've taken away from today's episode. So let's jump in and get all up in your business. Kass and Mike, thank you so much for joining me today and talking all things partnership. You know, I love to get up in everybody's business, but most of all, now we're going to talk a little bit about yours and how you partner together to have created such a massive, impactful life and businesses with what you've done to date. So first, I'd love to ask the question, how long have you been partnered in life?
Mike, do you remember?
Yes, we have been partners since really 1996, November, when we reunited, let's say, at a wedding soon after I graduated from Northwestern University. And we've been together ever since. So believe it or not, almost 30 years next year.
Amazing. And it's so awesome to see, because it sounds like with that longevity, I guess where I'm curious is, what did you learn most about each other in order to fuel each other's like desire for professional life, as well as how you came together personally?
I think we've always seen each other's expertise. Like I've always been in awe of Mike's relationship building, how he networks, how he figures out problems, but big problems, like visionary problems, like looking at products, services, looking ahead and kind of seeing the trends way ahead of most people. And he can monetize anything. And I think I saw that the most when we first sold a car back to a dealership. I think that was so funny and brilliant. He had this poor man just all messed up. It was great. And I think he was the one I came home to in my, corporate job and would be like, well, what do you think if I did this? And then he's like, well, think about it this way or think about it this way. And I think for him, I became the person that kind of operationalized everything and could organize everything. And I thought about teams and how you speak to teams and lead them. And so that became our habit when we lived together, or even the first year of dating apart and then lived together. And then it just seemed like, why wouldn't we pick each other to be, co-founders?
Mm. What about you, Mike? What did you see in Kass?
I mean, it was really well said. We were young, and I think for us, or for me, it just felt right. And there was an easiness to it that I'd never experienced. And there was an equality to it. Like she is older, obviously very well educated, but understood how businesses work very early on and was very different than me. I was always more of a visionary and I struggled on the operations side. And so I'd started a company in college without Kass, obviously. And I loved the business side of it. And I really didn't like the operations side. I had to get people paid. I had to get stuff registered. It was a time when you didn't have the tools that we have today, right? Like you could go online and get all your legal docs done. You could get so much stuff done without really operating. And so there was this yin and yang from the beginning, and there was kind of shared ethics and background and view of the world. And we were young; it just happened, really.
Yeah.
I mean, these aren't things that you plan out. You say, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that."
Yeah.
It's just you don't get in your own way.
Yeah, the synergy between you, just being in the room with you and also in the conversation, like you could see that there's this underlining respect and understanding for each other's greatness, to then like know how to dial it up or just like quiet it down maybe in certain moments. Those dynamics take a lot of time to build. And I know, when you bleed in a personal relationship into a corporate environment, like as you're building business and the value system that you talked about, when I've worked with entrepreneurs on partnerships, I've had to restructure partnerships, rebuild them, especially if it's family and business, where the blurred lines of like how a dynamic is at home starts to come into the business. And then there's like resentment building up because someone doesn't understand that like that's not what I actually want to do in my professional life, even though I might take that on in my home life. I'm curious if there were moments or ways that you have helped other entrepreneurs who have tried to partner together and you've kind of seen the mismatch of partnership. What are the things that you would look at or help them decipher in order to build the right respectful partnership as they lead their business forward and not like destroy what's happening in their personal life?
On my side, I would look for their skill sets. And if they have similar skill sets, that means 99% of the time that they're talking about the same things and they're not dividing and conquering. And there is little respect and trust. Like that implicit trust is how you make fast decisions, good decisions. And I would talk to them specifically about that and why they can't trust each other and if they could actually divide some of the work and then trust each other. What about you, Mike?
Yeah. So whether you're family, whether you're married, brother, sister, it doesn't really change the fact that it's all about communication. And the communication starts up front before you even start. And it's about having the hard conversations. We talk about this in our book. One of the most important decisions is who your co-founder is. Who are you working with very early on? And the conversations that you need to have are, how hard do you want to work? What's your vision for the company? Are you going to be willing to sell it if we get an offer? Is this like your baby that you want to work on forever? And there are these shared expectations. And we love prenups in business. If it doesn't work out, what is the path to figure that out? Even if you don't say, I get half, you get half, or whatever it is, let's at least, while we're not fighting, figure out how we're going to negotiate something that's very emotional.
Yeah.
And the co-founder relationship is like a family relationship. It's like a spouse relationship. You speak first thing in the morning, you speak last thing at night. You're constantly texting. You're trying to pick up the other person. You don't want to, do something that lets them down, right? So it's a very intimate relationship. And all relationships like that have to start with communication. And if you can't communicate the hard stuff early on, you're never going to be able to do it, because you only build resentment and other negative emotions as you kind of face adversity and friction together.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. It is one of the tools I come in with and I use for anything anyone I'm partnering with. Like I call it the partnership operating agreement. Like, how are we coming together? What's our distinct roles? Making sure they're clear, like breaking down how we're going to communicate when conflict arises, making sure that there's a clarity on who has deciding votes, like how are we going to vote, or who breaks it? If it's two partners in the place, like then what? Like, how do we actually drive a decision so that you can exit the conflict with knowing that the resolution is what is the purpose of what you are discussing, not so much things get emotional all the time. But when it comes to like how you want to direct it, I love having those agreements up front and the code of conduct of like how you're actually going to communicate about it, and be clear on, this is our respectful way of saying, look, something's not right here. It has to be fixed. And the faster we address it, the faster we're going to move through it.
I also think knowing why you both are getting into this is a big deal, because it can diminish or even take away resentment. So why are you getting into this? Okay, so maybe this person's for wealth and the other person is for freedom. Yeah. And then I always like to ask co-founders, what do they like to do that's not work that gets their mind off of it? Because then when you see that co-founder, that partner doing that activity, there's no resentment. It really means it's like a light that says, oh, this person is really stressed out right now and they're doing this, and I got to give him or her a break.
Yeah. And also I think that I'm curious too of like the scheduled time for consistent communication, because I think that is really critical too, to just keep the finger on the pulse of what's happening.
Especially structured time, not just the reactive, what did you think about this? Was that a good meeting? Passing back stuff, like you need this. It's the structured time. And I think Mike and I did a really good job to make sure that we had very structured time at the beginning of the week and very structured time at the end of the week, so that each week we could set people up for success.
Now, did one of you have to own keeping the responsibility of how that time was utilized and like agree to the kind of code of conduct around the time?
We had this meeting called like the management team meeting. It's like all of our C-level meetings with our legal counsel. And we didn't have a CMO at the time. And that was a meeting that was, I think it was 2.5 hours, up to 2.5 hours every week. And you could not miss it unless you had a wedding or a funeral or you were on your honeymoon. And so there was just an expectation that no one's ever missing. And obviously, Mike and I never missed it. And that was just how it worked. And
Yeah.
if you were on the road as a salesperson, like the CRO, you had to call in. And that was a chance for us to make decisions in front of each other, whether we all agreed, it didn't matter, but in front of each other so that we all could move forward knowing that this was our plan, as opposed to not hearing it or hearing it on the side and then talking about it amongst themselves.
That's great. For clarity and transparency and consistency, I think it's key. But also what I love that you shared was that there was an agenda, a very clear one as to why you were coming together. And that was held. Because I've had to go and restructure so much meeting management in companies where I'm like,
yeah.
Why? This is the most expensive time. Like when you have your
Right.
C-suite in one room and there's no running like clear agenda as to why you're there, that you just literally cost your company.
Think about in our world, it was like software companies and you have a product roadmap.
Yeah.
And how many other companies just sit and think about ideas or like start waxing with engineers and then decide to change something, but don't tell the customer service team or the marketing team or the sales team. That is something that you have to be very careful of. And we only changed our product roadmap in those meetings.
So
that was it.
You had to be involved. Yeah. So good.
You have to all hear it and hear why we're doing this. Again, you might not agree, but when someone like a salesperson would say, "Oh, we need this for a new client I can land." Well, what comes off? And let's discuss it. And then we all vote on it and then we move forward.
I mean, I know people watching and listening will benefit from the reminder of how you manage your time well, but also the fact that like you have to take the lead on ensuring it's a purposeful meeting, and the consistency about it is so key to sustain partnership. So thank you for sharing those tips because they're quite helpful. Wouldn't you want Kass and Mike all up in your business? I am obsessed with them. Okay, that was such a great conversation. So here are the highlights and some tools I want to share with you that from that topic we just discussed about how partners can come together, build and scale to create billions. They are in the billions game. So it's not necessarily about the money. It is about the value system, the operations, the vision, the collaboration, the connection that makes them come together to generate and create whatever that end game is for whatever that business is that they're building. So in the first part of our conversation, they talked about their distinct roles, how to come together in conflict, how to make sure that you have consistent communication in driving what you're in partnership for. And that requires a clear vision. And with that clarity and vision of what you're trying to go after, then you put the steps in place, the code of conduct, that partnership agreement on how you move forward as partners to achieve that end game. But what's critical is also to talk through what you do in conflict. When conflict arises, how you resolve it with those values in mind. So key to define upfront as partners. And if you haven't done that yet and you're thinking about bringing on a partner, you're in an existing partner, and you want to reset on that, you want to think about how you're doing things today and enhance that process, you can put a pause on operations on how it's been going and redefine how it needs to be going forward at this stage of your business. So don't forget to check in on those partnership agreements, build a code of conduct. You need any help with that, of course, you can reach out to me and I'm happy to get up all in your business and make that happen. The other part about the roles definition there. So what you saw distinctly in the partnership between Kass and Mike is that Kass is the operator. You know, I do the CEO quiz, right? So Kass is the operator and Mike is between the creator and entrepreneur line on that triangle, on the CEO triangle, creator, entrepreneur, operator. So because they have the complementary leadership stance between the two of them, they can then scale their businesses with ease because they'll know the gaps they have to fill on the creator entrepreneur side. If Mike just wants to be a visionary of the company and help come in, he has to make sure that the entrepreneur is there to sell, to make sure there's an actual business, right? Where Kass is always in the operational side, leading the teams and the culture and the ability to drive excellence against achieving those business goals. So if you're unsure of what role you're meant to play, your innate skills, go take the CEO quiz. It's at heykareen.com/CEO. And that will help you identify the partner you're playing and the partner you need in order to scale in your business. What I loved most about the second part of our conversation is that we talked about the money mindset and how important it is to know where you stand in your money story, to know where you stand in your financial beliefs, to then know where you're headed and what that impact of that mindset is on what you're trying to achieve. And if that's not clear, and you cannot clearly communicate that if you are in the capitalist seat, like you want to earn capital so that you can have freedom in your life, that needs to be stated. It needs to be known. And that if you have a struggle going on because mindset that you don't feel you're worthy for some reason. I work with a lot of female founders who feel like they are not worthy of earning. Got to break that cycle and get that money mindset in check. It is so critical in order to scale in your business to build the freedom or the end goal of what you're in that business for, because it is a choice. Like I always say, entrepreneurship is a choice. So choose wisely. And if you're uncertain about what to do the work to evolve yourself into who you have to become to lead towards what it is that you really desire. So I'm obsessed with today's conversation with Kass and Mike. I hope you enjoyed the conversation too. This is something that I will periodically be bringing experts in to talk about specific topics where I'm impressed about how they approach it in their own world, but also to make sure that you get the value so that you can apply it to yours. Thank you for allowing me to be all up in your business today. And if you got anything from today's conversation, because there were so many nuggets, please go ahead and subscribe to the channels, like all the posts we post about this conversation, share them with your community. Most of all, post a review and show us you're listening. Because if you show us that you're listening and getting the benefits and you're watching and sharing the episodes, it helps us extend our reach and also bring on more guests for you to connect with. All right, I'll see you in the next episode.